By 1954, there were nearly 7,000 members of the RT and RTL classes, and that number of buses had to be repaired and maintained somehow or somewhere. And that job was undertaken here at Aldenham Bus Overhaul Works, developed in 1956 on a 67-acre site in Hertfordshire. The site was originally built as a tube train depot for the never completed extension of the Northern Line, and before being converted into the bus plant, was used for aircraft production in the Second World War. The works overhauled 50 buses each week, and all of London Transport's 12,000 buses paid a visit every 3 to 4 years. Once the bus has arrived in the workshop, the first job is to remove all the seat cushions, being collected in a rather speedy fashion, and the vehicle is then trailered to the trim shop. After a thorough inspection all over, all items needing attention or replacement are marked, and, of course, noted and recorded. A keen eye inspected the exterior panelling, while the upper deck seat frames are checked for stability. With all the body repairs noted and logged, the bus is moved into the next stage with this rather nifty device. The bus is lifted by the front axle and moved with an electric-powered trolley. All necessary items are disconnected from the bus and bolts removed. The overhead crane is steadily moved into position, and the body is slowly and carefully lifted off the chassis. Is then moved along almost all the length of the workshop. The massive works at Aldenham employed nearly 2,000 staff and was known as the biggest undercover works repair shop anywhere in the world. The whole idea of Aldenham was based on the RTs and later the routemasters having separate bodies and chassis. As the bodies often took longer to repair than the chassis, the original body and chassis on a vehicle were unlikely to be reunited, and instead were matched up to the next off the repair line. Once above its allocated pit, the body is carefully lowered into the place ready for further inspections. All the worn or damaged parts are removed, starting with the body side panels. Worn tread boards removed, after probably 1 million feet have stood and walked on them. And then it's the turn of the side windows. That cab door can't be any good, so off it comes. But the main body frame is good, well, for another couple of years at least. All the worn parts are taken to the workshop, and new ones made. Most of the workers at Aldenham were skilled craftsmen. Internal roof and corner panels are being inspected for dints and scrapes. And a selection of new parts are ready to be ferried back to the bus. chassis is overhauled in a similar systematic way to the bodies. They are lined up on a production line. In this line, there are 1 Leyland and 2 AEC chassis. The steering box is being separated into its basic components, and the oil drained. The column is removed and put to one side, followed by the main gears from the steering box. Each part is then checked, reworked if necessary, and then reassembled. The front axle is the next for inspection. First, it is cleaned to remove any traces of paint rust and dirt. Then it is moved again, this time to be checked for cracks. A magnetic liquid is poured over the axle, which when put under the light will show up any cracks in the unit. It is then taken back to the production line and reassembled. The hubs are refitted with new kingpins, together with new brake shoes and drums, and then taken back to the production line. Back on the production line, this Leyland chassis is receiving a degree of detailed attention. The overhauled chassis is then taken away to the paint shop. The chassis is put onto a ramp which tilts to 45 degrees, enabling the chassis to be sprayed silver all over. All the removable body sections, such as the engine cover, are spray painted separately. Back to the refurbished body, which is now back on the tilting machine, showing the extent of the work undertaken. A new panel below the driver's cab window and 2 new front wheel arches can be seen. Then the body is lowered carefully back onto the chassis, a job which calls for precise alignment. In the pit underneath the bus, the bolts which hold the body to the chassis are quickly fitted. Before any further work is undertaken, the bus is taken for a test jaunt around the Aldenham Works track. This is to ensure everything is working as it should, and also gives the opportunity to test the brakes. Once the fitter has achieved a good speed, the brake test meter is reset, and the cue is given for a hasty stop. A reading of 40 isn't bad, but the brakes will probably undergo some attention later. And then it's back off inside, and after a look at the brakes using the pit, the bus is towed to the paint preparation area. Here the body is washed down from top to bottom and has its advertising posters removed. As the work progresses outside, the inside starts to be painted. The side windows are blanked off using specially made locking boards. And the cab window is masked off using whitewash. The completely masked bus is steadily moved through the works to the spray painting chamber. Buses arrived at the spray painting chamber on a conveyor belt, which could accommodate 16 vehicles to be simultaneously given their 2 coats of paint. Once the paint has dried, the many transfers which need to be on a bus are applied. Here, the distance from the beading is measured to get the transfer exactly in the right place. The transfers are fitted, and then the attached paper is moistened to allow it to peel off. The same method is used for all the other transfers. With the transfers applied, the conveyor is started and the 16 buses are taken to the next stage, allowing another 16 to take their place. The buses then enter the final stage of the overhaul. The number plates on the RTs were actually transfers. The newly refurbished seats are refitted. And the now unmasked windows are cleaned to perfection. Next, the remainder of the fixtures and fittings are attached. With varnish applied and the new advertisements positioned, the buses are nearly ready again for public service. There's just the final tests to run. There's only the destination blinds to fit before the overhaul is complete, and the bus rejoins the many thousands out on the streets of London. In October 1985, the decision was made to end the practice of overhauling buses every 4 years, which meant the end for the Aldenham Bus Works, and its activities were transferred to the older and smaller maintenance depot at Chiswick. The site was sold off for redevelopment and is now a business park.